In our last episode, we saw how God's voice can intervene in the dark times of our present circumstances. But what do we do when the dark times happened so long ago and yet still seem to hold so much control in our lives?
Who's messed you over in the past?
So many people.
I had been praying to God, if you can't deliver me from this pain, then I don't want to be here.
How does God speak into our past?
There were some things that happened, and I feel like weeping.
Into our deepest places of pain?
How do you know God's there? You're saying this stuff.
Being married to a prophet can be a very interesting life.
She was called a witch, she was called all sorts of names.
You've had moments where you just despaired.
I have been in the deepest, darkest pit you can ever imagine.
But God is going to use all of that for good.
Will He go with us into the uncharted territory within? Or is there some place God's voice cannot go? I'm just a girl who heard God's voice one day. And since then, I've been obsessed with finding people with stories like mine. So we're inviting you on a quest today. We're going to witness on camera what it's like when someone suddenly hears God's voice for themselves.
I don't know anything about you, but this is what I see. You're going to help people with startup projects.
That's been my dream for like years.
You're a storyteller. I mean, it's just like in you.
I promise you, that is exactly what I'm going through right now.
I know.
That's crazy.
Did you do any play acting, as a kid?
My family didn't even know these details.
No, I don't know anything about it.
I know. I thought you know all my life already.
You think this is just happenstance? No. God has a plan for you.
What will He say? What will they hear? And what does it mean? This is When Heaven Hears.
What was it like growing up? Wow, I had a happy family. You know, we were poor, but we didn't feel poor. Now I realize we were poor. I remember literally one night we had no food to eat, and we prayed for God to give us something. Now this sounds weird. The washing machine kind of stopped overflow. And Dad went to fix it, and underneath was a $10 bill, so we went and got food. In those days, that was a lot of money. I mean, a Coke was a nickel. Sometimes people didn't like me being a preacher's kid. I got people who tried to beat me up. You know, Dad, wanted to go to these kind of tough areas, and so I had to live in those tough areas, and yeah, that was hard. But my dad, man, you try to mess with his kid. He's a former gang member. You know, you don't mess with him.
Prophets can be very interesting creatures. And being married to a prophet can be a very interesting life.
We knew each other, didn't date, and I won't go into all the details of that era because she was engaged to someone else. But anyway, she finally realized the guy was not for her. And now, look, you may not get this, but if you're from Texas, this will relate to you because we were at a place that had great Mexican food. I couldn't eat a bite. She couldn't eat a bite. And I'm going, I'm in deep trouble here. She was hot. She's hot. Still, to this day, she's hot. And it wasn't because, oh, I would love to be married to a prophet. No, we didn't know she was a prophet. She didn't know she was a prophet back then.
I remember one time I was in this parking lot, and this real prophet came up and said, "You're going to go around the world. I see you big international ministry." I think I'd been to Canada, and I'd been to Mexico on vacation. So
it became apparent that God had tapped her on the shoulder in some form or fashion.
I'm looking around like, you cannot be talking to me. But, you know, God had a different story for my life.
I was working full-time at the airline. I was not skilled at feeding children or doing things like that. In fact, it's beyond that. Guys, don't judge me for this, but I didn't know how to iron my own shirts. Some of the ladies in the church started ironing shirts for me. People gathered around us saying, hey, we're going to work together so that she can do what she's called to do.
When I wrote my first book, which is now in 30 languages, I didn't think I could really write. I didn't want to be a writer, actually. We didn't go on television until I was 50, and I'm now in my 70s.
She was called a witch. She was called all sorts of names.
But not to my face, because the people would have gotten their face rearranged if they'd tried doing that. In a loving way.
It's really good to team together. He's funny. He fixes things. But
Keep going. No, we're still madly in love after 47 years of marriage.
Yeah.
And we still love to eat together. Hold on to that one.
Filming with strangers has kind of taken over Cindy's life and my life and a half dozen other lives over the last couple years. You think we'd get bored of doing this over and over again, but the thing is, like we're about to see in our next session, a surprise is always just around the corner. All right, let's take it from the top. So tell us your name and where you're from.
My name is Taylor Hill. I'm from Hollis, Queens, New York. Growing up in New York definitely made me strong because I had to learn a lot of street smarts early. New York is full of culture, it's full of people, it's full of different types of food that I love. But I kind of grew up in a very toxic environment, what I like to call the madhouse. It was like seeing people through this skewed, jaded, traumatized mindset. There was this environment or this DNA of tearing each other down.
To deal with this harsh environment, Taylor took to music.
2 shots in and I'm trying to get out this madhouse. 2 door bends, I'm trying to get all this glass out from my skin. I'm trying to get all this black out, caving in. I'm trying to get out this madhouse.
Through my music, I'm just reaching people who have experienced a lot of childhood trauma.
I've had some demons, sometimes I still see you.
And help people through their healing process.
To take all my freedom. I'm in my father's skin, fighting off his father's sin. That's why I'm up all night, trying to find the medicine.
Growing up, I thought LA was like a city of dreams, a place for dreams to come true with my music.
Taylor hatched a plan to get to California.
When I graduated high school in 2009, I came right out to LA. I was 17 and went to school. But I pretty much had sunglasses of suspicion because of how much I was hurt coming up as a kid. I went back to New York because I wasn't ready.
The succeeding years saw Taylor move around the country and eventually start a family.
Now I'm married, I have 4 kids. So I have a new sense of mission for my life.
Finally, in 2024, an opportunity opened up for Taylor and his brood to move their home base to California.
My wife and I, we just got to California a month ago now. So I'm back. Yeah.
Taylor says the family transitioned to the West Coast on a wing and a prayer.
We're looking for a place to stay, but I really want to know what's the best plan for us right now, because there are some investment opportunities and all this other stuff on the table. But music's kind of what pays the bills essentially now. Yeah, I'm just excited to see how it plays out, honestly. Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm
Hi,
Taylor.
you are. Hi, Taylor.
Nice to meet you.
All righty. Well, what I'm seeing for you is that you've just thought, okay, I'm going this direction. I'm going to be creative. And this creativity is something that I think for a long time you've been saying, I want to develop this. I want to be more. I want to make a difference with what I do. But there's been struggles in it. And what I see is there's all these pieces, like great things are happening, but there is a bit of frustration because it's not quite gelling to the degree you want. And I just feel like the Lord is saying to me, be patient, because He is putting together a lot of things for you. And a lot of things will involve contracts. A lot of things will involve an ability to use even finances to be a help. I see God is going to one day use you with some inner city kids. And I don't know if you've thought about it or not, but if you haven't, think about it. Because what I see is you're going to train them to use their talents and gifts for the industry. And it's going to help kids have a leg up that never, ever could have been anything. How am I doing so far?
Well, that's good. Yeah, so with the inner city kids, like, yeah, you reminded me of a dream that I had probably maybe 2 years ago. I had a dream that I was building like these two, it was like not really an orphanage, but it was like a community center. So that definitely, yeah, that's spot on.
You know what? God wants your dreams to come true. He's the best dreamer. The biggest dreams you could dream for yourself, God can outmatch it any day.
Amen.
My dad grew up in Hell's Kitchen, New York. And I don't know if you know about Hell's Kitchen, but
Yeah.
not a nice place. And, his dad died when he was young. So I really always resonate if I'm prophesying over somebody that I could see could do some things he did do in his life. He built community centers and he did stuff like that. But I see a major funding coming through for you. And I see that you're kind of betwixt and between a little bit right now, But I just want to say to you, don't be nervous about that. I just feel like it took a leap of faith. But don't sweat it, because you're really going the right direction. I don't know if it would be called a gig or whatever, but God's going to open up, these opportunities for you.
Yeah.
And for your family, for housing, I see that God's going to give you an upgrade, like a room to play and, just green space. And do you already have your housing worked out and everything?
No, I was just talking to them, like, we're looking for a place now and trying to figure it out, honestly.
Yeah, God's going to do a supernatural housing for you. You can just take it to the bank. And your wife, I have not met her, but I just know she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And you better say yes, this is the
Yeah,
appropriate moment. But you're going to be a great partnership, because you have different strengths. It's not just you, it's both of you. And the industry and different things. And you're going to mark this one down, because someday you're going to give away cars. You two will have capacity, so you can actually just say, here, I'm just going to lease that car for you, or here, I'm just going to help you with that.
Yeah, I feel like that giving away cars thing, I don't know why I just started to get emotional about that, but no, I definitely, because that's what I want to do. I want to give away so much stuff. And so when you said about financing and helping other people, that's definitely spot on.
And it's so hard when you're in a stage in your life that you don't have the ability to give like you want to yet. It's very, very frustrating. But you're going to be listening to this later, and you're just going to be laughing and just going, oh, look at that. It happened. It happened. And you're going to help people with startup projects. Yeah. Yeah, you're going to be one that helps ideas and dreams become reality.
That's been my dream for like years.
Hi, Taylor. I'm Mike Jacobs. What do you do? I
Yeah.
have no clue what you do.
So
Are you in the trade somehow?
So I write, produce, sing,
Yeah.
all that.
As Cindy was interviewing you, I started sensing the things. I thought, well, I'd really like to share those with Taylor.
Yeah,
So I'm sensing this. I'm sensing that you have been around situations where you have had a lot of disappointment in people, even who are leaders, or people that you thought you would be able to rely on, and people who have made commitments to you that they will do this and that for you. And so sometimes it makes you a little more reticent to move into something, maybe even something new. Like, how do I discern who I can trust?
So that's definitely spot on. And yeah, I feel that.
Who's messed you over in the past?
So many people.
I just was sensing there's a real pain in your heart from that. You know?
Yeah, it's like, I feel like what it was like multiple men who who saw that I had a hole in my heart when it came to my father,
Yeah.
or my stepfather.
Yeah.
It would be like, whenever they would make me feel special, it was like a hook.
Okay. Taylor, look at me. You said you grew up in New York?
Yeah.
Where in New York?
In Hollis, Queens.
Okay. Did you go to church when you were growing up?
Yeah.
Was it good? It was a mix.
Yeah, it was like definitely a lot of toxic stuff.
The reason I want to come back and pray for you is I'm seeing that there was some church abuse. I mean, it was not good. And I know a little bit about New York and some of the dynamics, but there were some things that happened to you, Taylor, that were not God. And not only you, your family. I feel like weeping when I talk about this with you. And what I see is you've forgiven and you've really asked the Lord to go deep in some of that. You're going to really be able to speak into some lives. And you're also going to know how to address toxic faith. Give me your hand, I want to pray for you. Lord, I pray for Taylor. Lord, I pray for his heart. Father, what he went through growing up in the church was painful. And Lord, I just ask you to heal his heart. And Lord, I thank you he didn't get bitter about it. He just got better. But Lord, I thank you, Father God, that this testimony, and there's some things, Taylor, you have not talked about, right? There's some things I'm not going to even say right now, but the Lord knows, okay? And Father, I thank you for healing Taylor's heart. You know what happened to him, and it was wrong. And I thank you, Holy Spirit, right now for what you're going to do for him. The Lord was grieved. The Lord was grieved. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm just feeling, you know, prophets are feelers too. You can feel emotion. I am feeling that pain. But God is going to use all of that for good. And it's going to help heal a lot of other people's hearts. Okay?
Thank you so much. Love you.
Systems of abuse. It surprises us for a moment when we find them revealed, but then reality quickly sets in. We know they can be anywhere, in church, in politics, in workplaces, and in families. Mine was such a family. And my mother-in-law, Cindy, my brother, Jeff, and I want to share with you how God broke in and liberated us from a system of abuse for good.
I have been in the deepest, darkest pit you can ever imagine.
Jeff and Cindy.
I had so much life experience, so much stuff that I consider to be negative, a violent biological father, some pretty horrific stories and things that we lived through as children. So
yeah, horrible abuse. Yeah.
Really did think that someday all of that would be used for good. And I got to a point where I was thinking and believing that that's never going to be the case.
My dad was abusive from day one. I don't remember a time where he wasn't. It started with my mom, and then eventually he started physically and verbally abusing my brothers and I. My mom said, "That's enough." But he told me, "If you tell the judge that you want to live with your mom, I will hurt your brothers." And then he went to my brothers, and I didn't know this until later, and he told them, "I'm going to hurt your sister." So we had no choice but to tell the judge we wanted to live with him. It was only a few years, but it felt like an eternity. Eventually, my mom met my stepdad. He said, "I'm going to fight for them." And he won custody of us with my mom, but the damage had been done.
Some years ago, I never saw this coming. It's not something that we ever talked about. I was going through a really dark period, and this was over months and months, and I had been praying to God saying, if you can't deliver me from this pain, then I don't want to be here.
Oh.
Like now being a mom, it's hard to think of that little kid, that I once was. I definitely had those questions of, like, why didn't he love me? So about 5 years ago, my mom had hip surgery, and Jeff came into town to help take care of her. Of course, because he's such a loving son.
And you came to visit us. And we were all talking about mom, and mom's in her hospital bed, and we were sitting in chairs over on the side of the bed. And at one point, you just stopped and said, "Jeff, I want to talk to you outside for a little bit." And I wasn't planning on going anywhere at that moment, and we had not had any interaction prior to this. You just got a feeling, apparently.
But all I could think of is, oh man, Jeff's going through such a hard time. It's really weird. Okay, you're gonna think I may be a weirdo on this, but I just sit next to somebody that's hurting and I feel the love of God so deep for that person. I'm just looking at you and I'm feeling this huge compassion for you. All of us have some place inside of us that's kind of a desert place. For me, one big deal was when my dad dropped dead of a heart attack. He was 49. We were really close. But if you allow it, that kind of marks you for compassion.
So then you proceeded to walk me down the hall and tell me about some of the struggles that I had been dealing with, and very serious things that I have never shared with anybody. One was involving my marriage, and that was something I kept extremely private. My family didn't even know these details. And so
I'm already feeling emotional.
I'm doing my best to stay in one piece right now. And I was completely broken. I had been praying to God saying, I'm taking my own life. I thought there's nothing positive that you can come up with, no reason for being alive.
Wow.
So when you were sharing about my life, one of the biggest takeaways that I had amongst some other details was you told me to stay married. And I didn't know what to think of all this because I don't really open up to a lot of people outside family, and not a lot of people really know about my personal life. But somebody loved me enough to just stop and pray for me. God's love through you brought me from a place of complete brokenness. And to this day, the marriage stands strong because of you. That changed my life forever.
You know, I think it's just evidence of God's love for you though, Jeff. When you're crying out to God, you know, and just thinking, might as well just end it. God already was working on your behalf. You know, you talk to God, you say words in thin air. I mean, how do you know God's there? You're just saying this stuff. And the second you do that, man, he's moving stuff around. He's doing all this stuff. And I have to do this. Oh, I love you, Jeff.
I love you too.
A few years later, I was dealing with breast cancer. I was really alone day and night. And I started to talk to God. Like, okay, God, like, let's really talk about it. Where were you? Then all of a sudden, I remembered something from my childhood. My dad had broken my mom's head open on a stereo. And so, of course, the police were called, and my brothers and I were distraught, of course. And this woman police officer comes up to us, and she took us into my room so she could get us away from everything. And we felt peace, and we felt like everything was going to be okay. And so when it was time for us to leave, the police officers came in and we said, we want to talk to the lady police officer. We want her to take us out. And they said, what are you talking about? There isn't a woman police officer here, and there hasn't been a woman police officer here the whole time. And so we really think that it was an angel that God sent us to help us during the darkest hour of our childhood. I just knew that God is speaking. Now, for the last segment on our show, let's see if Cindy can once again cooperate with God's voice to bring more freedom to a woman she's just meeting for the first time.
I'm Vasia Hurt, and I'm originally from Scottsdale, Arizona. Well, my childhood growing up was, overall, it was pretty good. I have a really awesome mom who made sure me and my brother were in church early. Music's a huge thing in my family. I started playing piano a little bit, then saxophone, and I picked up guitar and keyboard and clarinet and trumpet. If I heard a sound, I wanted to play it. But I grew up wanting to be an actress, and I'd watch shows and I'd like reenact the show like I was a kid on the show. I really wanted to just be like in the industry.
Vasia's interest in performing helped her to deal with intense situations in her family.
There's been some stuff. Even just growing up, there's been a lot of stuff. I just kind of utilized my creative interests, playing instruments in band and doing theater. I'm still very much walking through healing with my family and breaking generational stuff. It's been a lot that God's brought me through, and I was finding just a creative drive, being artistic. So I just kind of prayed, hey God, I'd love to be living in LA by the time I'm 19.
Vasia packed her bags for the biggest move of her young life.
I have moved to LA, and I've been here since 2011. The big dream in this scope of what I've seen would be to have like my own production company that specializes in family entertainment.
As the years have worn on, Vasia has found success behind the camera in the world of animation.
I'd been able to work on feature films and some TV shows. That was pretty awesome.
But her performing aspirations have yet to come into focus.
I had to lay it down, and I remember that being a process for me. But I'm hoping to hear from God. I had been toying with the idea of getting back into acting, looking forward to probably hearing some direction and wisdom just for the season of life that I'm in.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Cindy.
Hi, I'm Vasia.
Vasia, nice to meet you too. Wow, you know, when I hugged you, I got a word. It was star quality.
Wow.
Star quality. This is what I'm seeing. You're multi-talented. And because you're multi-talented, it's almost hard to think, is it this?
Yeah.
Is it this?
That's
is it
real,
this?
yeah.
And I mean, even I don't know if you've done anything musically at all.
Yep,
but
yep.
yeah, I see you are amazing like that. But the acting part is gonna be so good. Did you do any play acting? You know, as a kid, I just see you being the cutest thing.
Yep.
You know, you're play acting. You know what you're gonna be and all this. You know, but you're not gonna play act. You're gonna really act.
Okay.
Yeah, and I see also you're kind of like gonna be like a character actor.
Okay.
The word I get is almost chameleon.
Okay.
That you're going to be able to get in front of that camera and you're going to transform.
Okay, cool.
For all the music, you know, you could do musicals. Hey, there you go.
Yeah,
that's
that is
a thought.
dream, yeah.
That'll kind of be the whole enchilada. So if you don't have an agent and you haven't done that yet, you know, or you just maybe starting, do it because the right doors will not shut for you. There have been some doors that shut, but they were the wrong doors.
Okay.
I see in the interim, you're kind of a little bit in the interim now, although you've done some great things. And I see also financially you haven't always been done right. Like people owe you. I see people that have, you know, not been ethical, but God's going to see you get what you should have. Also see you're going to do some writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. A name I'm getting is Maya Angelou.
Yeah.
That she's formative for you. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I've got a lot of just respect for her. She's a poet that has really put to words the resiliency of African American women and just I don't know. It's just funny that you're saying that because last week I was thinking, I was like, I need to go find a shirt or something that says, I know why the caged bird sings. Her being a poet, like I have written poetry and
yeah, I was getting that poet part. Well, you know, you are a storyteller. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, I just was talking about that. Yeah.
You're a storyteller. It's like a place in your heart that maybe you almost lost hope in. You're like, okay, maybe that's not real. Or maybe that was just me, the little kid.
Yeah.
You've known some sorrow.
Yes.
Real sorrow. Some family stuff. It's tough. But it's not going to be so with you.
Thank you, Jesus.
It's not going to be so. Even though you've had a lot of ups and downs, you've had a lot of challenges, you've had moments where you just despaired. It was so rough. I mean, you have gone through some tough times.
Yep.
But you're coming out of it.
Thank you, God.
You are coming out of it. And not only are you coming out of it, you're rewriting your family story. I almost feel like crying when I'm telling you that.
I'm gonna cry right now.
That's okay, we'll both cry. You are rewriting your family story.
Yeah.
You want to give me a little feedback on some of this?
Oh man.
That's why I'm crying. What do you think? You know?
Okay. I studied acting, doing theater, and I'd done just some short film stuff here and there. But I was like, I don't know if God's ever gonna do it.
Once it died, huh?
Yeah. So
you know.
You saying that now, I'm like, okay, well, let me just like remember. And then the other thing that you mentioned was you mentioned that I was a storyteller, and in the pre-interview, I literally was just talking about like future projects and
storyboarding.
Oh yeah, well, I mentioned that too because I work with storyboarders as well. I don't know how deep I can go on this, but
you can go as deep as you want. Even
just you talking about walking through times of sorrow and stuff, because there's been a lot of tears shed, especially in the last year. And I remember praying, like, God, remember my family. And it'd be something that I would really pray. Something that really resonated with me about, like, God's faithfulness to generations. And just, like, you saying that he's, like, rewriting the family history, that's really meaningful for me. Even this sorrow stuff you've experienced in your family system, God's gonna turn it for good. Yep. You're like, okay, God, I'm asking you to do this. Yeah. I didn't know. I know nothing about you. But God's gonna answer those prayers. Those things you pray in secret, he really is listening. Well, thank you for all of that. That was spot on. We should have more Kleenex on the set. I'm telling you. They're around. Yeah. The mascara is coming off. Actually, it's not running down your face, so you look okay. Seriously, thank you so much. Yeah, you're welcome. God really cares about your future. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, you're welcome. God bless you.
As we started to transition the room for our next guest, I became a little overwhelmed at how good God has been to my family. When I started this journey of hearing God's voice, I thought that maybe there was an outside chance that my life could be changed. I had no idea it would impact so many others.
When you're praying for somebody else and you're trying to reach for that wilderness place in their heart where they're hurting, you pull out of your place where you were broken and where you were hurting.
God has shown me that I'm not alone, and no matter what I go through in life, I'll never be alone. But when I knew that I could have a genuine encounter with God, that he would talk to me, that he cared about me, then I knew that he's with me at all times.
And that kindness that God gives you just pours out of your heart. They can feel it, and you can feel it.
So if you're interested in finding out more about God or that experience or prophecy, I would say just ask God, like, I want to know more. I want to know who you are, if you're real, what you're about, and he's gonna answer you. I don't know where God's voice will take me next, but I know this, I'm gonna find out.